When I first started the series, I mentioned that there were 5 70mm IMAXs in India, which once existed, but now they don't. We've already covered 3 of them in the previous episodes, but the 2 still remain. Where were these other 2? Who opened these 2 and why did they even close down? This is the story. So it all starts with this company called the Aeren R Group, founded by somebody called Dr. Rajesh Aeren. They were headquartered in Delhi and they dealt with real estate, malls and multiplexes. And they came out of nowhere. They did a lot for the premium cinema market in India, and then they just vanished into thin air. So in the early 2000s, we had 3 IMAX locations, right? One in Ahmedabad, one in Hyderabad and one in Mumbai. And these 3 locations were spread across the west and the southern belts of India. The north and east had no presence. So these guys, the Aeren R Group, they take exclusive franchisee rights with the IMAX Corporation for the north and eastern parts. IMAX does not own and operate any of their theaters, they just lease the equipment. Multiplex operators like PVR Cinemas or Prasad's Ad Labs operated on behalf of them, and then they split the profits or go for an upfront payment. And the Aeren R Group did the same thing, except it's interesting because they were not a multiplex chain and they did not have any involvement in the entertainment industry. They were just making big bets in the real estate space, and they thought IMAX was the next big thing. You see, malls and multiplexes weren't really a common thing in the early 2000s, and Aeren R wanted to bring an IMAX experience inside of a very commercial, high-class mall. And that is why in 2005 they partnered up with Ad Labs, who had their IMAX in Mumbai. Well, they collaborated with them and they set up a 6-screen multiplex at Pacific Mall in Delhi, out of which 1 screen would be the IMAX screen owned and operated by the Aeren R Group. This screen was a 70mm IMAX, had 450 seats and a screen about 80 to 90 feet wide. All of this in a purpose-built auditorium which would house a 1.43:1 screen and would be the second 3D theater in the country to play commercial films, followed by Prasad's. And this is the only picture I found of the IMAX theater by the Aeren R Group. And from what I've learned, this place would mostly play documentaries for school kids and field trips, a few DMR Hollywood films once in a while, and in those cases it would be listed as an eligible 70mm theater in the IMAX's website right alongside Prasad's Hyderabad. Honestly, it was kind of a genius move to pull this off because, malls didn't really exist in Delhi in 2005. I mean, there were a few here and there, but all the big ones today, Select City Walk, DLF Promenade, Ambience Mall, they did not exist until 2007 or 2009. So having this place be a real thing in 2005 was, I think, kind of a big deal. And in theory, it should have been successful, right? Right? It actually closed down 2 years later. But why? If I had to take a wild guess, I think it was the content and the location. This theater was not really in Delhi, it was in Delhi NCR, more specifically Ghaziabad. And Ghaziabad is about 20 to 30 kilometers away from the Delhi city center. Ghaziabad was a very sparsely populated place, and I'm guessing real estate was cheap, and that is why they built the mall over there in the first place. Honestly speaking, the main population of the market was, I think, away from the product. Delhi would probably be home to people who would be willing to spend and be willing to appreciate this kind of an experience and pay a premium for it. Apart from that, programming wise, Hollywood movies weren't even a thing back then, and this theater closed off before Nolan could even bring out The Dark Knight into IMAX screens. So yeah, kind of sad. It's especially more sad because I'm somebody who grew up in Delhi and I had no idea about this theater. In fact, if I speak to people who lived in East Delhi or Noida or Ghaziabad around that time, even they had no idea that this theater even existed. And that points to the fact that Aeren R Group did not do any sort of marketing or PR for this particular theater. And if they did, I would have found at least a couple of ads or articles while I was researching, but I didn't. So I guess that was also a factor. But you know what? Because there is so little information about this theater and just like one picture, it feels like smoke and mirrors. It doesn't feel real. While I was researching about it, it didn't feel real. It felt like a lie. So I had to go to Pacific Mall Ghaziabad and look at that auditorium. So presently, that particular multiplex is being operated by MovieMax. It's not a national chain, but it's present in some smaller towns and cities. You might have heard of it. And what they're doing is they're labeling the IMAX Auditorium on Book My Show as the Max screen. It's kind of funny. I mean, and it was like 15-20 minutes away from where my parents live in Noida. So last year I did decide to watch a movie over here and visit the theater myself. Now the multiplex itself was pretty clean and shiny. I gotta give props to MovieMax for maintaining such a old multiplex and giving it a shiny fresh coat of paint. And once you enter the Max Auditorium, man, you could tell this used to be an IMAX GT auditorium. I mean, the seats give it away. The way the seats are arranged in that curved fashion, that steep stadium seating, which is just classic IMAX. You can tell, man, you could tell. And the ceiling height is so damn high, it just gives it away. And it felt unreal, it felt so strange. Like, I was just reading about this thing and now I am in that place. It felt like visiting an ancient, restored site. It's weird. It's weird. Also, if you look at the wall, you can tell that it used to house a 143 screen, but now the screen is cropped and all because, it has to be powered by a normal 4K projector. This is the side-by-side of the Aeren R IMAX and the MovieMax Max screen. Same auditorium, like 15 or 20 years apart. I am kind of happy that the auditorium is not abandoned. It is being maintained very well by MovieMax. But I'm also kind of sad that what used to be once a 1570 IMAX theater is no more. Now, the Aeren R Group did not give up. Instead, they packed up their bags and headed to Kolkata. Now, that is some optimism. So, this time they picked the Money Square Mall and they collaborated with Cinemax, which was a pretty solid, popular cinema chain back then. Configuration wise, it was very similar to the previous one, purpose-built auditorium, a 1.43:1 screen, about 80 to 90 feet wide, 450 seats, and capable of playing 3D movies. And I found only two pictures this time of this auditorium. One is this from a random Blogspot blog, and this one from a newspaper article when it shut down 1 year later. Now, there is a little more clarity as to why this theater closed down, and it's definitely not because people did not know about it. People definitely knew about this theater and the existence of it. It was almost like a landmark location, ministers coming and all for screenings, and anybody I talked to from Kolkata at least had heard of it, if not, gone for a movie over there. And that's the thing. There were very few movies playing at this IMAX venue. The whole deal with what kind of movies would play at an IMAX theater was entirely dependent upon what kind of film prints a theater would receive. And this was a problem even Prasad's IMAX faced back in the day. Not a lot of movies were opting for the IMAX 70mm film print. And on top of that, the movies which did get film prints, the Aeren R IMAX was getting them way later than the release date. So if Harry Potter releases in July, they would get the prints in August or September. And because of this, because of lack of movies, there were no footfalls, and the ticket prices had to be low because it was the mid 2000s, and all in all they couldn't make it a profitable venture again, and they closed down. So coming back to Kolkata and the Money Square IMAX, what are the other films you remember watching, and like what was it like being in that theater? And if you could just tell me more as somebody who's, been in that theater, watched films, what was the cultural perception around it?
I I I think not a lot of people knew about it, because I don't recall ever seeing it that full, like not houseful.
Hmm.
Maybe during Avatar, yes, but I did. I actually watched 2 movies, but I had a total of 5 experiences there. So I watched Avatar 4 times in that theater. Yeah, it was 2009. James Cameron's Avatar had released, and like 3D was the new thing at that time. And my first viewing of Avatar was not in IMAX, but it was at an INOX theater,
Mhm.
and it was a standard scope format. So then I heard of the IMAX and format and everything, and it was a revelation. That's all I can say. Like, not only was the aspect ratio large, it was about 16:9, so significantly taller than scope. Like the 3D, man, the 3D was out of this world. I've never seen anything like it, and I think I have never seen anything since that has that kind of depth. It was like you were being sucked into the world, literally.
But what
Yeah,
were the other movies you watched at Money Square IMAX?
these were the only two, I'm afraid.
Avatar and?
Like no, I didn't tell you about Harry Potter, right?
No, you
I
didn't.
I watched I watched Harry Potter and the Half Blood Prince also.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, so it's the same year basically,
Mm-hmm.
2009. That's when it released, and they had an opening 3D segment. Okay, the opening
Mm-hmm.
scene was 3D.
So
Yeah,
for
the
for
battle
that
between.
so for that kind of a movie, I wanted to ask, like, you just take off the glasses after the scene ends?
Exactly, exactly.
Oh,
They
okay.
they give you they sort of give you like there's an icon at the bottom of the screen which blinks, which says put on your glasses and something like that.
Okay.
If it's like multiple scenes, but if
Mm-hmm.
it's a single, I think they just tell you in the beginning. So I also enjoyed that the Half Blood Prince experience at Money Square. It was a really good experience. There was a little bit of grain.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of pale grain because it was shot Super 35. Um, but I think it looked really good. It looked really good.
Now, while the IMAX screen closed, thankfully the multiplex was still functioning and running just fine, and Cinemax took over the IMAX screen and operated, played normal movies on it until it was acquired by none other than PVR Cinemas. Yeah, the multiplex giant. And in 2016, they took over and put a fresh coat of paint on the entire multiplex. They PVRified it with all the gold accents and everything. For the IMAX screen, they made the first ever PXL, which is PVR's premium large format cinema. And that PXL at Money Square still is active to this date and remains Kolkata's biggest screen. And well, my grandma lives in Kolkata, so I had a good excuse to go over and check this PXL out, because why not? Now, the lobby and everything is pretty standard PVR stuff, but the moment you enter the PXL auditorium, it's way bigger than any PXL I've visited, and I've visited quite a few, and it's again clearly a GT theater. Credit where it's due, because PVR did a much better job than MovieMax in restoring this ancient IMAX GT site, because the screen at least goes edge to edge. The projection is 4K laser. It has a Dolby Atmos setup. The seats are comfy. It has, I think, Reality 3D. I guess it's a good thing that people of Kolkata got a solid, premium large format screen, and I'm happy about that fact. But what happened to the Aeren R Group? I honestly don't know, because I tried looking for contacts, I tried looking for a website, I tried looking for people who worked in this company. I couldn't find absolutely anything. I do have a little bit of extra information, I just throw it out there. They were also planning additional theaters in Ludhiana and Punjab, but also Gurgaon. So they were planning to, I think, re-enter the Delhi NCR market, but again, those plans never came into fruition. Allegedly, this IMAX theater was supposed to be located at the MGF Metropolis Mall in Gurgaon. Nothing existed over there for the longest time until in 2018 or 2019, when Mirage Cinemas took over this property and they run a single screen by the name of Mirage Maximum. Pretty cheesy name. I've been to this theater a couple of times, twice in 2019 and once in 2022, and it definitely was meant to be an IMAX theater. It was huge, and they touted as Delhi's biggest screen, the Bap of all screens or something like that. And I wouldn't deny that claim. I mean, the auditorium truly is huge. But yeah, that was it. I couldn't find anything else about the Ludhiana or the Jaipur IMAXs. And yeah, that's about it. I think that's the end of this episode and also the series. When I sat down to make this series, when I first promised it in my Oppenheimer video, I had genuinely no idea that this would kind of blow up a little bit, because you guys loved watching it, and the Prasad's video and the Gujarat Science City video did so well, got 1 lakh plus views, and it's such a strange feeling because it was so unexpected. The whole idea came and stemmed out of my obscure obsession with these closed IMAX theaters. Like, who even thinks about that? But I'm glad I did. I'm glad I made videos on it, and I'm glad you guys watched it. Nothing but grateful, and all I want to say is thank you. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.